I want to get straight to CNN's Pete Muntean to start us off this hour. We're going to speak to Senator Bernie Sanders here in a moment. But Pete Muntean, you're deeply sourced in the aviation world. Obviously, there is a question of what the ramifications are that are being felt from this government shutdown and what you're watching for in terms of how this FAA decision came down.
Yeah, these air traffic controllers are real people, Caitlin, fighting to put food on the table. The Union of Air Traffic Controllers just told me in a new statement that this shows really just how fragile the air traffic control system is. You can understand the burnout when you layer the 11,000 air traffic controllers still required to work without pay during this shutdown, on top of the fact that so many have been working mandatory overtime for years because of a nationwide controller shortage. So it really just starts to make sense that only 6 days into the shutdown, some controllers are beginning to call out sick, leading the FAA to implement these delays in the name of safety. Here's the latest. Short controller staffing is causing the FAA to delay flights into Denver International Airport until about 10:30 local time there. The FAA has also put into place delays for short staffing at the approach control facility responsible for flights into and out of Newark Liberty International Airport. You may remember that facility's already been plagued by low staffing and repeat system outages. And then there's this new problem. The control tower at Hollywood Burbank International Airport in California is in what's known as ATC 0. That means the tower is empty tonight, no controllers working. And here's what controllers were telling pilots right as the tower there was about to close around 4:15 Pacific time tonight.
Just give a heads up on you said everything's closed for our clearances.
The clearance is closed, ground's closed, local's closed, the tower is closed due to staffing. So you just contact SoCal on the 800 number in the green book for your clearance.
All right.
Remember, the very same thing ended the 35-day government shutdown back in 2019, and controllers calling out sick led to ground stops and delays at some of the country's busiest airports. And when that happened, lawmakers reached a deal pretty quickly. This government shutdown can be kind of ambiguous when it comes to the impacts, but this is how it affects real people, Caitlin. These are working Americans working for the federal government.
Yeah, and that ups the pressure, of course, on the lawmakers here on Capitol Hill. Pete Muntean, keep us updated if there are any other closures or staffing shortages tonight. We'll continue to keep a close eye on how this is shaking out. I'm here on Capitol Hill tonight. My source is the independent Senator Bernie Sanders of Vermont, who caucuses with the Democrats. And Senator, I think maybe a week ago we were talking, it wasn't clear that it would last this long. Now here we are, and you're hearing about these FAA shortages. You caucus with the Democrats. Has this changed the strategy in any way?
Well, it is clear that this shutdown has got to end as soon as possible. But what's also clear is that Trump now understands that he has to finally deal with the health care crisis his legislation, the big, beautiful bill, has caused. Trump may be crazy and Trump may lie all of the time, but he's a good politician. He is seeing the same polls that I am seeing. And that is all over this country. The American people are saying, you know what? We can't afford health care now. And you, Mr. Trump, want to double health care premiums for over 20 million people. You want to throw 15 million people off the health care that they have. You're going to destroy a broken health care system. We may not be able to recover from that. I think Trump understands that. The Republicans understand that. And I wish that the Speaker of the House, Mr. Johnson, had not given his members a vacation, taken them out of Washington. In the middle of this crisis, they're not here. That's pretty pathetic.
Yeah, and his argument is they did their job by passing the Clean CR and it's in the Senate's hands. But on what you heard from the president today, that he would be willing to make the right deal on the Obamacare subsidies, do you see that as an off-ramp or do you see that as a bluff?
I don't think it's a bluff. I think, look, he is a good politician. They are losing this battle. Every poll that I have seen suggests that the American people understand that the Republicans are causing this shutdown. They control the White House. They control the Senate. They control the House. They need 60 votes in the Senate. And when you need 60 votes, you have to negotiate. Up until now, they have not negotiated at all, their way or the highway. What Trump is beginning to say is, okay, we're going to have to come to the table and negotiate. Now, my own view is, I think speaking for most Americans, at a time when our healthcare system is already broken, you can't make it worse. So we have to restore these tax credits permanently. In my view, you can't throw 15 million people off of healthcare. Studies suggest that will lead to 50,000 unnecessary deaths a year. And I think when we negotiate with Trump, because for good reason, I think Democrats don't trust his word. We have to make sure there are no more rescissions. As you are aware, Trump decides that he's going to cut funding to states that committed the crime of voting against Donald Trump. $18 billion for New York and New Jersey for a major tunnel project. That is absurd.
Yeah, and even Republicans have said that they're trying to get the White House to reverse that. Mike Lawler, the congressman from New York, is trying to reverse that. On the subsidies, though, so you mentioned the subsidies and then an agreement on no more rescissions. Is that, there are other things that are in the Democratic ask. It's a 68-page proposal, I think. Should they cut all of the rest of that and just say those two things?
I think you got to negotiate. You're not going to get everything you want. But bottom line, again, I don't mean to be overly repetitive. We have a broken healthcare system. Everybody knows that. And Trump is not wrong when he says the system is not working very well. But he is making it far worse. And honestly, as the former chair of the Health Committee, I worry very, very much that he could literally collapse the entire system. We don't have enough doctors right now. Who in the world is going to want to become a doctor in the midst of all of this? We pay the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs, for healthcare in general. Our life expectancy is lower than other major countries. So we have a system deeply in trouble. He is taking it to the verge of collapse. We cannot allow that to happen.
So today, when we were in there, I was a little surprised because he sounded open to making a deal on the subsidies. But then tonight, he posted on Truth Social, basically, you need to reopen the government first before you can have that conversation.
Yeah.
Are you willing to do that?
No, of course not. Who would trust them? You know, look, they have had months and months to negotiate, and they have chosen not to. The Speaker of the House has said to his members, you don't even have to come back to Washington, D.C. Before any Democrat, sane Democrat, would agree to anything, it has to be explicit, written down, cross their fingers, you know, and so forth and so on. You can't, open the government, we'll negotiate with you. Really? Who believes that? I don't think many
So
people.
if you got a written commitment from the White House on negotiating, then
Not on what the deal is. What are you going to do?
On the subsidies.
Of course. What is it going to be, for 2 weeks extension? In my view, it should be permanent. Until we can move to, in my view, a Medicare for all healthcare system and do what every other major country on earth does, and that is guarantee healthcare to all people.
Robert Costa of CBS News said tonight that Senator Susan Collins was circulating some bipartisan plan about extending the subsidies and addressing that once the government is reopened.
Of course, once the government is reopened.
You don't
Look,
seem to think that's enough.
Caitlin, they have had months to negotiate. And you reopen the government, and we lose our leverage, and they say, well, you know, we want this, we want that. No, there has to be an agreement right now. That's what this whole shutdown is about, to protect the American people and our healthcare system from collapsing.
So with the FAA shortages that I mentioned tonight, also active duty military is set to miss their first paycheck October 15th, not that far from now.
Right.
I think there's a question of whether that's going to become another pressure point for lawmakers in terms of this.
Look,
and the question is how long you're willing to keep the government shut down to fight for those subsidy extensions.
Look, nobody wants to see our military get unpaid or see the air traffic controllers have to go out on sick time. Nobody wants to see that. On the other hand, I am not going to go back to Vermont and tell 45,000 people that they no longer have health care, and to tell many, many thousands of others who can't afford it, that their premiums are going to double. Republicans understand that. They are losing this battle. And I think they're going to begin to understand they have to come to the table and negotiate a reasonable agreement.
But I hear that from you, that you think Republicans are losing this, they're going to come to the table. When I'm at the White House, they say Democrats are losing this and we're going to have more Democrats come. Senator Angus King, though, tonight is saying he might switch his vote back.
Yeah, I know.
What do you think that that's likely, and what do you make of that?
I talked to Angus, and I think, among others, and yeah, I do think so. I think he is, I don't want to speak for Angus, but I think he's sick and tired of seeing no movement on the part of the Republicans. Here is the bottom line. They may say what they want to say, but there is a reason why at least 14 members of the Republican caucus in the House have signed on a bipartisan letter asking for these credits to be restored. There is a reason why at least one United States Senator, now Mr. Hawley of Missouri, said the same thing. Apparently you're telling me Susan Collins wants to move. They understand. You're running for re-election in Maine? Here, go back to Maine and tell people I supported a doubling of health care premiums. Good luck to you.
Senator Bernie Sanders, we'll check in with you this time next week, I guess, and see where things are there. Appreciate your time tonight. As always, thanks for joining us here on Capitol Hill.